Hey, how's it going? It's me, Vash the Lost. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry for no build update over the last few days. I've been working hard on Poison Manaforged Assassin, trying to figure it out, and I think I finally got it. I've got some new information I've gathered over the last few days to share with you all. I hope you're excited. I know I am. This will be the mid-game update for Poison Manaforged Assassin. The information I'm going to be sharing with you will include a passive tree we'll go over together, a skill I want to talk to you about, a support gem I want to talk to you about, as well as the unique items that I am now using, some that will be staples, they'll stay with us all the way through to the end game, and then others will only be stepping stones on your way to acquiring those more expensive pieces of the puzzle. We're going to go over the skills and the gear first. It won't take that long. This is what I'm working with as a bow. I got this in the second half of the campaign. It's a tier 3, tier 2, and then a crafted tier 2 elemental damage prefixes, with the only useful suffix being that accuracy rating right now. So not a crazy bow. Southbound. I am using these for Despair on hit. You can use any pair of unique gloves that you want for Despair on hit. Our socket pressure is really high, so I do think that we want Despair on hit. And Southbound is a pretty nice pair of gloves because it comes with flat damage, increased maximum life, and then cold resistance as well. You may think that the your hits can only kill frozen enemies is a huge downside, but because we're a poison build, poison is not a hit, it's an ailment, damage over time effect. So we don't even have to worry about your hits can only kill frozen enemies. It's never a factor for us. Highly recommend a pair of Southbound gloves. This is the belt that I'm using. It's for resistances only. I probably want a Stygian vise or something more fun. The Blood Dance. I was really struggling to figure out how to fit in more life regeneration into the build, and I think the Blood Dance boots are the solution. You see there, regenerate 0.8% of life per second per frenzy charge, gives us about 4% max life regen when at maximum frenzy charges. This is the easiest way. I'm not saying we have to stay with these boots forever. You might be able to find more life regen on a flat suffix for a rare pair of boots, but for a placeholder, I mean, I don't think it gets much better than the Blood Dance. I'm going to be sticking with these for quite some time, I think. Lightning Coil. This was a staple for Poison Pathfinder Manaforged arrows, and that was because of not Balbala, but because of their ability to abuse flask charges and raise their maximum elemental resistances through that. So we're going to be doing the same thing. If you see down here, I've got my Balbala set up with the triple elemental flask, and that is all for Lightning Coil. I think it makes us a lot tankier. And on that same note, Foulborn Pandemonious. We're picking this up not only for the blind chilled enemies on hit, which is pretty active by the way, it's mainly for the 15% of physical damage from hits taken as cold damage. Between this and our Lightning Coil, we already have 65% of physical damage from hits taken as elemental. We're using an Elevore right now for the implicit that I found on it, the cost and reservation multiplier reduction. I don't think we're going to be sticking with this, as I want a rare helmet. So Elevore, I think, is a placeholder, but it's a pretty good placeholder, especially if you can find that cost and reservation multiplier, as you will not be able to pick up Malevolence without some sort of additional reservation assistance somewhere. I've tried to pick up a lot on the passive tree, it's just not quite the same. I think you'll be down just a little too far. You won't be able to use your main skill. So either pick up a helmet with this reservation multiplier reduction, or try to get a couple of jewels that have percentage increased mana reservation efficiency. That would be my best recommendation to get it done cheaply and without Enlighten. Yeah, there we go. I was having a brain fart. I was like, what is that enhanced support gem called? Kikizaru. This is another really easy way to fit in a lot of life regeneration for the build, which is a huge problem for the build, by the way. We do not have many sources of life regeneration on this side of the passive tree for Shadow, and I think Kikizaru, at least one, is potentially best. Comes with some great things like all attributes, lightning resistance, which is actually kind of a problem for how I've set up the build, but the life regeneration is the main feature of why we're using this ring right now. Another way that you can cheese in some mana reservation efficiency and resistances is a Venter's Gamble. They don't have to be perfect. In fact, you could get a really crappy one and still get the increased mana reservation efficiency figured out, especially if you're using 2 Venter's Gambles, as that's more than enough reservation efficiency for our purposes. I'm using a Kikuzaru, like I said, so try to get it done with 1, or try to figure out your mana reservation somewhere else on your tree, as that would be best. Last but not least, the Poised Prism. This comes with resistances and a little bit of flat damage. We do not want to use this forever, but it's a great placeholder, a great stepping stone on our way to a quiver with more useful stats like flat life, damage over time multiplier, more consistent flat damage perhaps. I think a rare item would be much, much more valuable in this item slot right here. And that is it for the gear. For the sockets, I'm still using Scourge Arrow of the Menace as my main skill, Deadly Ailments, Unbound Ailments, Greater Multiple Projectiles, and don't worry, I'm going to go over the full links in the POB section, so don't worry, don't worry. Life Tap, Manaforged Arrows, Toxic Rain of Withering. This is one of the new skills that I wanted to talk to you about, and it is entirely for Wither application. It's not the best skill for Poison, as it's not an upfront hit. I think it does hit, but then the hit that it applies is a flat damage over time. See, 215.8 base chaos damage per second. That's per spore pod that explodes. But we're really interested in these spore pods for the withered debuff. It has a guaranteed chance to apply one per enemy hit by one of these spore pods, and wither is very, very important for poison builds. Try it out. If you don't like it, use something else, but I am using Toxic Rain of the Withering for that wither application. Caustic Arrow of Poison. This is really good. I talked about it before. This is just for the overlaps. It's kind of hard to see with how much clutter there is, but basically, Caustic Arrow of the Poison behaves in a way similar to Tornado Shot, in that all of the projectiles can squeeze really tightly together and cause a beautiful overlap. And that's the same reason as to why we're using Tornado Shot, is for their projectile behavior. Storm Rain of the Conduit is to help us stay alive through gain life on hit notables on our passive tree, as well as we won't be using Unbound Ailments in our chest piece anymore. We're going to use Withering Touch. This is for, again, Wither uptime. Wither, really, really important for chaos builds, and the better we can get that uptime to 15 stacks of Wither, everything will feel better. So I'm using a Withering Touch. Maybe we replace this with a Cluster Jewel that has, Unlimited Malice or something? I forget what the exact name of it, but basically it's got Malice in the name, and it makes it so that if you've critically struck, those crits have a 10% chance to activate Unholy Might for 4 seconds. And while we're going to be critically striking, I don't know if we're going to be critically striking consistently enough that that notable on a Cluster Jewel would perform better than just including Withering Touch in our gem setup. So I'm going to be going forward with Withering Touch and save myself the expensive Cluster Jewel. Hopefully that will help you guys as well. I know a lot of the prices on some of the items currently are really skyrocketing. One of the items that I need, a Thread of Hope, went from being like 30 chaos all the way up to 300 or 400 chaos now. Super happy about that. Sorry, I digressed a little bit and got ahead of myself. The other links are Life Tap, Manaforged, Scourge Arrow of the Menace, Frenzy in the boots, and then in the helmet we've got Flame Dash, Purity of Elements, Malevolence, Grace. I'll go over the flasks, sure. Increased duration is the most important modifier on all of your flasks if you're going to be doing Balbala tech like I am. Balbala is a keystone that comes from using a timeless jewel, Brutal Restraint. It's going to be denoted to Balbala, and it gives you the trader so that you can generate flash charges per missing flask slot. I am waiting to craft a suffix onto this ruby flask. I'm most likely going to be choosing leech life 15% or whatever of enemies that have hit you. It comes from identifying Katarina flasks, Cinder Swallows. Those are the ones that allow you to have those unique flask crafts. Additional elemental resistances is pretty important, I think, as lightning resistance is going to be a little bit of a problem for our build. And then evasion is very important. Before I show you the POB, I want to show you where we're at on my current passive tree. This is the Balbala that I was talking to you about, brutal restraint, pick up the trader, and you'll need 25% increased flash charges gained. Conveniently, we're nearby a lot of that modifier. We're headed towards Heart of the Oak, or Heart of the Oak. No, I keep saying it, Heart of Oak. Holy Diablo 2, Batman. Photo enjoyers, log in. And we moved out of the basement. You can see down here I used to say that this is where we were going to live for leader of the pack. But we moved out of the basement and we are now living in the attic. Yeah. That's for the intelligence requirement of malevolence mainly. And then comes with less mana reservation efficiency. So this is more of a, I've already got my reservation efficiency figured out pathing. And the increased aura effect is far more useful at that point. On top of the intelligence. It's mainly the intelligence, and I'm here grasping at straws about where am I supposed to get the intelligence? I don't know. It's pretty tight. I'm really stretching my mind to figure out what are the available solutions for some of the problems facing this build. I'll try not to bore you with that process. So we're pathing towards some more life. We are waiting to afford a Thread of Hope that has a large radius. And that will allow us to save like 7 some odd passive points. That's super useful. We can spend those in all sorts of different ways once we've acquired that Thread of Hope. Unfortunately, it's a little expensive, so we're not quite there yet. I haven't been lucky like some of these other streamers who constantly get Mage Bloods, or they're going to their Genesis tree, and the Genesis tree is just like, you know what, I gotta take a shit. Here's 20 Divine Orbs. Nothing like that has happened for us. I have not seen a single Divine Orb. I am excited to see 2 Chaos on the ground, or I'm excited to see the Genesis tree drop like 5 Chaos. That's where I'm at with my build. I'm scrambling to sell all my Scarabs, and I'm scrambling to sell all of my Alteration Orbs for Chaos Orbs so that I can afford bare minimum building blocks to stop dying turbo style in every single map that I decide to step foot in. So that's what my passive tree looks like. Let's go over towards the POB, and I'll break it down a little bit more thoroughly for you. All right, last but not least, here's the POB. Scourge Arrow of the Menace, Unbound Ailments, Greater Multiple Projectiles, Deadly Ailments, Elemental Damage with Attacks, Vicious Projectiles. Everything else is going to be very similar to what I said before, except for this Unbound Ailments. We need to change that over to Withering Touch. This is in our chest piece. Manaforged Arrows, Life Tap, Scourge Arrow of the Menace, Caustic Arrow of Poison, Withering Touch, Tornado Shot. Storm Rain of the Conduit, Frenzy, Life Tap, Manaforged Arrows. Not sure about Lightning Arrow anymore. We're probably going to be using of Withering. Toxic Rain of Withering. And Puncture could end up being replaced by Lightning Arrow for the shock effect. That's where I'm at with the skills right now anyways. Grace, Purity, Malevolence. If you can't use Malevolence, try to figure out how you can fit it in. There's a couple of sources of increased reservation. If it's not on your passive tree, then you try to get it through your gear. Excuse me. Flame Dash, Despair. Despair is hopefully going to be on that glove implicit through a unique pair of gloves that you find fun or interesting or useful. Here's the tree. Let me get the accuracy out of the way. I am not sure whether or not we will need this wheel of additional accuracy. It'd be nice if we didn't. We may not end up needing it after acquiring our Thread of Hope, but on the way there, we may end up needing that additional accuracy. Really, Thread of Hope should be a super high priority for you because of how many passive points it's going to help save. Comes with a downside, obviously, of minus to all elemental resistances, and then we'll have to solve that. We may end up solving that through picking up Survivalist. That would be a quick and easy solution for the most part. Primal Spirit is going to be important to pick up some additional strength and intelligence. without spending more passive points than necessary. There are some places that we could path for additional strength and intelligence, but it's just a significantly larger investment. I still think that the recoup is good. I'm trying to pick up as much recoup on my passive tree wherever it's available. Ghost Dance is useful, not in the way that you would think. This isn't really useful, I think, for mapping or anything. This is useful for the league mechanic, to where if you go into the breach hives, I don't know their specific name, but it's like the big event, right? To where you go in and it's like this maze and you have to protect Lilith from 24 waves. This is good after you complete those 24 waves and then the area is destroying itself. You know how it like has waves of energy being blown out? Well, Ghost Dance is perfect for that as it will just completely ignore it. Very, very useful. I was dying to that mechanic a couple of times before getting the necessary life regeneration that I was talking to you about before in the gear section. And Ghost Dance was an absolute lifesaver. I was like, wow, that is a night and day difference. I wish I had picked that up sooner. Life, reservation, and aura effect, accuracy, life, skill effect duration, life, intelligence, wither mastery. I'm not sure if we're going to pick up Dire Torment, but it is worded in a way that we could benefit from it very, very handsomely. So it's on the radar. We just haven't taken this yet. It's the most convenient damage over time mastery. I'm not sure if we want a cluster jewel, right? If we need a cluster jewel, then suddenly we don't have nearly as many passive points to play around with. And the cluster jewel would probably only be possible after that Thread of Hope. So I wouldn't get ahead of yourself and buy a cluster jewel just straight up. If you want to use a large cluster jewel, then pick one up with Grim Oath and Overwhelming Malice. The reason why you want Overwhelming Malice is for that Unholy Might. It would allow you to get rid of some of the Wither application in other places in your build, as I hear the uptime of this is pretty darn good. And then Grim Oath. Grim Oath will force Overwhelming Malice to the bottom of that large cluster jewel, making it so that you can pick that up and then only worry about the jewel sockets, as Grim Oath is good, but it's not worth the extra 2 passive points, I don't think. Maybe it is, I don't know, right? I'm just kind of spitballing here and playing off the fly. What else can I talk to you guys about? I think I already talked to you guys about how we swapped the poison wheels back over to poison chance so that I don't have to worry about that in other places. I've been thinking about Perfect Agony a little bit, but I would only recommend Perfect Agony if you can't use Malevolence. If you aren't able to acquire the mana reservation for Malevolence, 100% just use Perfect Agony instead. I think that is the much simpler solution, and it's not really that much worse. It doesn't come with the skill effect duration, right? It is worse. But whenever you're kind of between a rock and a hard place for those resources like currency, you take what you can get. So I'm not sold on the cluster jewel, and this is what it is looking like without it. That's it. That is the mid-game update for Poison Manaforged Assassin. Hopefully you found it informative. Hopefully you found it entertaining. And if you want to help out the channel, consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribe, as they all go a very long way, and your support would be no different. I'd also like to say sorry again for not getting this video out sooner, as a couple of people said that they wanted to follow along this season, and I feel like I kind of failed you. My original League starter plan for Kinetic Rain Poison Assassin got the quadruple nerf, and I really wanted that to still work, but it just didn't quite feel the same as I had planned it out. So that exploded in my face. My previous League starter, Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow, Guardian, was nuked from orbit, so I couldn't play that. And so I was left kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what can I do to salvage this horrible curse that I've bestowed upon the land and others that may have come across my video. And yeah, I've been staying up until like 4 a.m. tinkering with my POB, trying out different unique items, wasting all my gold, wasting all my currency. Really shot myself in the foot this time around. I have terrible RNG with loot, it feels like. The Genesis tree is not favoring me one bit, as well as mapping in general just feels kind of barren or arid. not getting much loot there either. So I'm pretty excited to see those Chaos Orbs still. Yeah. But I really do feel like I've kind of messed it up this season. Yeah. I haven't been feeling all that well. I'm still kind of going through some stuff from the kidney stone. Still trying to correct my diet, and that comes with a whole bunch of new mysterious body pains that I'm not really familiar with enough after my 10 years of fasting or whatever you want to call it, of malnutrition. So, yeah, I'm definitely having a bit of a tough time this league start, and that is why I have taken so long to get this update out, I would say. Failure on failure, complication on complication. I'm not trying to make it a competition. I'm just trying to let you guys know about what's going on and why I'm kind of dragging my heels. So, peace out. I hope you guys are having fun, and hopefully I'll see you here next time.